1, 2, 3, 4.
All right, welcome back to Country and Cold Cans. I'm Logan, sitting here with Trucker, Andy, and Kyle. And be sure to give us 5 stars and a great review on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Click subscribe on there, and also subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's at Cold Cans Country. You'll see the Country and Cold Cans logo on our channel. Click subscribe, hit the alert bell. Check out the website for blog content, coldcansnetwork.com, and for merch, go to coldcanshatco.com. We'd love to hear from you. Give us a voicemail in the link in the description of this podcast. It says click here to leave us a voicemail. Any questions, any comments, anything you want to say, any music recommendations, that's the place to hit us. And today, the big news in country music is the loss of country music legend Toby Keith. We will be talking about that a little bit later. We got a voicemail regarding that. But we'd love to hear from you next week. We'll play it on the show and respond to you about your thoughts on Toby Keith and some of your favorite songs. So hit us there. But before we get into all that, guys, did y'all see that Treaty Oak Revival had their Grand Ole Opry debut this week?
No, I did not. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Did they play No Vacancy?
I don't know what songs they played. I haven't been able to find any YouTube videos yet. I can't wait till they drop because they always clip them on Grand Ole Opry and put the performances out.
I saw on their story almost everything was off of No Vacancy. Are you allowed to cuss at the Grand Ole Opry?
I want to say within reason. If you do, you can't
drop
say the
F-bombs.
F word and everything.
I think that's why they may have been playing No Vacancy, because the new album might not exactly be fitting for the venue.
Yeah, and that's also realistically the more countryer record of the two.
Yeah.
So probably makes a little more sense for them to play that.
I wonder how the octogenarians felt about hearing Treaty Oak at the Grand Ole Opry.
That's a good point. I don't know. However, I'm sure that they advertise who's playing in advance. So people who are Treaty Oak fans probably bought tickets too.
Yeah.
But I wonder who else was on the bill with them that day. Would I guess depend on what kind of mix of fans were there.
Because every clip I've ever seen of the Grand Ole Opry, the average age has to be 55 and up. I never see young people.
That is true a lot of times. I'd like to get to the Grand Ole Opry at some point. I've never actually been to a show.
I walked past it in Nashville a few years ago just because I wanted to see it. And
Well, you walked past the Ryman.
yeah. Oh, it was. Yeah. Right.
So I want to
right?
say in the 70s they moved the Grand Ole Opry to they have a new Opry House. It's not new
Oh,
anymore.
okay.
But yeah,
It's
I
on
want to say it was in the
Briley
70s
Parkway.
they did that. Yeah. Whereas, but there is a few months span towards the end of the year that they do bring the Grand Ole Opry back to the Ryman and they play it there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I typed it on my.
Side Bass, bro.
Yeah, I typed it on
Yeah.
my. I typed it on my GPS. It's right by Vanderbilt University, and I was like, I want to see the Grand Ole Opry, and we walked back, but I guess I was wrong. Damn Google.
Andy, would that be? He may have went to the Opry House. Then is that near Vanderbilt?
I don't know where Vanderbilt is.
It's
Yeah, I don't
right.
either.
It's probably
Northeast of downtown.
yeah.
Were
It's about a mile.
you on Lower Broadway or were you like not on Lower Broadway?
No, I was not. It's probably like a mile.
Oh, so you did go to the
stuff.
Opry House then?
Further than a
It's-
mile.
Yeah.
It might be. I didn't walk there. I Ubered to Vanderbilt and then
Yeah.
walked about a mile or so.
It's on Briley Parkway, north of downtown, several
Yeah, so
miles.
you
'Cause
might
it was
have
like-
actually
it was
seen
like-
the Opry House then.
Okay, because it was like 3 miles from downtown, and I was like, I'm not walking 3 miles. So I Ubered to Vanderbilt University and then walked by, and then walked through Vanderbilt like we did with Texas University a few
Yeah.
years ago. Just because, hey, how often do you see Vanderbilt University?
True. I mean, anytime you get to see kind of a well-known school like that from one of the big conferences, it's always fun to do.
Yeah, walked through, looked at the baseball field, and carrying on. Didn't care about the football stadium because they haven't won an SEC game in probably 10 years.
Yeah, they aren't very good in football. That's for sure. They had a couple of decent years, like 10 years ago, where they were bowl eligible. But in general, Vanderbilt's in the SEC strictly for the
Old money.
graduation rate and to raise the GPA average.
It's absolutely accurate.
But talking about like the Opry House, I've never actually been to the Opry House. However, Andy and I and a couple of our other buddies, Jimmy and Chase, we went to Nashville back in 2018, and I made them, because I'm an old man, I made them take the tour of the Ryman. I'm sure they enjoyed it. It was pretty cool, but at the same
That was
time,
my
I was like,
second time.
it was Andy's second time. So Andy's just as
It's
old of
worth
a
it.
man as I am. But it is because it's like there's so much history there. Like they take you back through all like the dressing rooms and just how many country music legends that have graced that stage, been in those dressing rooms. It's really cool to see. And I was like, because there wasn't a whole lot. We got there really early because it's a short flight from North Carolina to B&A in Nashville. And I was like, we've got plenty of time. I was like, nothing's really opening on Lower Broadway yet. Can't even check into the hotel. I was like, let's go to the Ryman. So I definitely recommend that if you're ever in Nashville.
They do a good job with the tour too.
That they do.
Yeah, that's awesome. They had a tour. Yeah. I just walked by.
I don't know what it costs these days. It wasn't cheap back then, but I don't know what it is now. It's probably going up like everything else in life.
Yeah, unfortunately.
Yeah. But I'll be on the lookout for the Treaty Oak clips when they come out from their Grand Ole Opry debut. I admittedly haven't watched this yet. I know I sent it to you guys, but did you guys see the new Zach Bryan music video for Nine Ball starring Matthew McConaughey? What were y'all's thoughts? I actually haven't watched it.
I was curious on the significance of the ending, the way it ended. I didn't totally grasp why. But it's huge to have Matthew McConaughey in a music video.
Seriously, though. Probably one of the coolest people, even though he lives in Texas, right? But probably one of the coolest people from Hollywood, in my opinion. And he's just like, you know what? Hey, man, I'll be in your music video. Zach Bryan's really blown up. Oh, yeah, but he's an actor. Look, I've always said, you know why actors are strange? They play pretend for a living.
He's one of the weird one's. He's a weird guy.
He is a weird guy. He doesn't believe in deodorant. And I'm sorry, just there's like 6 months out of the year that if you don't believe in deodorant, I can't be around you.
But he lives in South Texas too, so imagine it's probably
even more,
even worse.
I have heard that, like, if you after like weeks or so, you just quit smelling. That's
I find that hard to believe. I find
like your body like stops putting out odor, or you just stop smelling it because you smell bad all the time.
I've heard, like, if you see like indigenous tribes in the Amazon or whatever, they don't smell. That after a while, your body just quits doing that. From my understanding, that the odor is a byproduct of bathing regularly.
Okay.
I've heard that.
I don't know if this is true or not, but basically in the olden times, people didn't walk around stinking all the time.
Because people didn't bathe like we do now. Like they bathed very infrequently. we're the like once, sometimes some people bathe twice a day type like era that we live in. But I don't know if that's true, Andy, but I could easily believe it because I feel like your body probably could react pretty easily and adjust to things.
I don't believe it at all.
It's like our gallbladder. Like, what does that even do? Right? But I guarantee you there was a time it was probably very, like, necessary.
I don't believe, or your appendix. I don't believe it at all. I'm sorry. Yeah. I'm sorry. We had like 2 millennia of diseases from poor hygiene. I don't care if you don't stink or not. We eradicated most diseases just from taking a bath.
Yeah. Look, cleanliness is important.
Yes.
Nobody's telling you to stop showering.
Yeah. I think you might go nose blind to it. I don't think the people around you do. They just don't say anything to you.
I can attest to you do go nose blind because I went on a camping trip last summer at the very end of the summer and it was sitting by the Chesapeake Bay. And they have an outdoor shower, but I didn't actually wash off that weekend. I just didn't shower the whole time. I was walking around in my own filth. I didn't realize until I got home and until I showered on the last day that how bad I smelled. I smelled my clothes and everything. And I was like, dude, I
like a musty rat.
We went to a restaurant down the road from where we were camping at. And I smelled like that walking around in public, man. I was like, what in the world was I thinking?
I mean, do you know the whole origin of giving women flowers?
No.
It's from the Middle Ages. It was to hide body odor on their wedding day.
Just putting it in the room?
No. Like
they rub the flowers all over themselves?
No. So at a wedding, they would give women flowers because it would hide their body odor at their wedding. Because flowers smell
how
clean.
Though? Just from the flowers being in the room?
Yeah, just flowers in front of the bride.
Oh, okay.
You would smell clean and clean and pure and fresh.
Well, why didn't you just take a bath?
They didn't believe in baths.
So they would bring flowers just to trick everyone into thinking you were clean.
Yes, that is the origin of flowers on a wedding day and for brides. The corsage or whatever. Yeah, that's the origin of a corsage. It's because
is this like confirmed or is this one of your conspiracies?
No, this is confirmed. You saw my YouTube history.
No, I did. Yeah,
I watched a lot of
that doesn't mean that necessarily all of it was true.
No, I mean they wanted brides to smell pure and clean and whatever else you want to call it.
So Kenshin, for those that don't know him, my co-host on Tailgate Season, our ACC podcast, he said the other day, Kyle, that he wants to get you and have a macro dosing style podcast where you guys just talk conspiracies. He goes and he wants to call it Kenshin and Kyle's Conspiracy Pod.
That could be interesting, but I can't do drugs. I'm against those.
No. That you don't actually have to. You don't. He's not saying that you guys micro dose and do drugs. That's the name of a podcast. It's called macro dosing.
I like that. Okay.
Where they talk conspiracies. Yeah, like that's a conspiracy pod. But he was saying like Colin Kenshin's conspiracy podcast.
We could do it. I feel like we might alienate 80% of our podcast base.
Well, you'd have a different podcast base with that because you would basically just be. I think you guys should do it and wear tinfoil hats, like legitimately. Because Kenshin made one time.
I have a tinfoil hat in my basement. It's on top of my refrigerator. Yeah. I have a tinfoil hat. I am all about it. I am there, and I would say I'm probably a 75-25% percenter on conspiracy theories. You know. There's 25%.
What's the craziest conspiracy theory that you believe is true? That people who don't believe in conspiracies think is wild. What's the wildest one that you think is true?
I don't believe the pyramids were built by humans. They were built by aliens. I'm sorry. A 3,000-pound block and we somehow got it 25 feet in the air with no help? No, I'm sorry.
See, I tend to take a really good one.
That is a good one, and I'm open to that one. But go ahead, Andy.
I got one that'll go along with what Kyle said. But I know Kyle's familiar with the show Ancient Apocalypse and Graham Hancock's theory. Yeah. I heard one the other day that I thought this was fairly solid. That essentially that there was a civilization many years ago. This came from the guy watching Interstellar, was where he got this idea. But
that's a great movie.
Kind of how like the standards, Earth's basically out to kill us, which is pretty hurricanes, tornadoes, natural disasters. Earth's trying to kill us. That essentially like, maybe the people that built the pyramids and all this stuff got really smart and figured out how to leave Earth. And that the aliens the so-called aliens you see today are just humans from a long time ago that figured out how to get out of this place and they're coming back just to mess with us.
I would say that a lot of the UFOs, the UAPs or whatever we're calling them now. All right, my grand conspiracy theory is: when did all the UFO things start? It started about 1947. What happened in 1945? We detonated a nuclear bomb. I've always been convinced that aliens have just been sitting outside in space watching us. And then they watched us drop 2 atomic bombs in Japan. And they're like, oh, shit. They can now just obliterate their entire planet. We ought to
intervene
a little bit. We ought to dive in, get a little closer. Because they've probably been watching for 2,000 years. They helped the Egyptians build the pyramids and the Aztecs build their pyramid. And then they just kind of stood back and watched. And then all of a sudden in like 1945, we're going to drop 2 atomic bombs that vaporize entire cities. And I'm like, oh, shit. We probably should have done something about that. And that's after that, that we started abducting people in Roswell, New Mexico. And So that's my conspiracy. That is my main conspiracy theory on.
I'm open to that one about a lot of our advancement in technology. Just how, especially in the last like 100 years, how
it's
quickly
only
our advancement.
It's only
it's
75 years.
Even the last like 50 years, like our advancement of technology. I'm kind of like I'm open to the fact that aliens are not watching us, looking to take us over. They've been watching us, and like then they drop in like bits of knowledge and just to like kind of progress society along, maybe to try to put their finger on the scale so we don't blow ourselves up. Like you said,
do it this way, not that way.
Yeah. Like, oh, okay. Yeah. No, go this way. But it's like, I will say, kind of pivoting back to the previous societies thing, that's kind of where I am on the pyramids and stuff. I do think that one, there probably was a previous society with way more technology then they went into the dark ages, and then they had to just rediscover mathematics and shit. But the pyramids are just too symmetrical, too mathematically perfect to be people just with pulley systems taking like thousands of pounds and building it and shaping it the way that it is. I think that there had to have been much more advanced technology than we realized back then. And I've always said maybe like using like sound waves to be able to move things. Whereas we try to do it like brute force with either machinery or a pulley system. Like I said, I think that maybe they found a way to like defy gravity, so to speak. I'm open to those ideas.
That's
for sure.
Graham Hancock's theory.
Yeah, I'm very open to those because I think that makes sense.
Graham Hancock thinks those people got wiped out in some catastrophic event. But I like the conspiracy. Maybe they figured out how to leave Earth and they're just on another planet.
Some would say
no, they're coming back just to mess with everybody.
Yeah. Or maybe they're just coming back just to see what's still going on the planet that they left.
His theory on the Sphinx is
how
wild.
would they go to another planet and then come back here? How would they still be alive now?
They're not ancestral.
I mean, the civilization kept going.
Oh, but see, what planet would be the question? Because unless they were just so advanced, they had technology to where they could leave our galaxy.
I've heard there's, or just a theory from this guy said there's a chance that there's just a planet on the other side of the sun that we just can't see because we always stay on it circulates the sun equally with us, and that it's always opposite. It's
kind of like counter Earth, so to speak.
Yeah. So we just never
using
see
a comic book term. That's interesting.
You would find that with microwaves, though.
What are you talking about, microwaves?
You can find planets opposite of the sun. You can find the center of the Milky Way galaxy behind the sun.
Oh, you're not. But that completely went over my head. For a second there, I thought you were like talking about microwaves, and I like in my kitchen. And I was like, "What the fuck does that have to do with?"
It's a frequency.
Finding another planet, but now
ultraviolet
frequency.
Yeah. I mean, you can see the center of the Milky Way galaxy behind the sun.
So we think.
You don't know.
That's so far away. That's hard to say for sure.
I buy a lot of Graham Hancock's theories. I don't buy that one.
That's not from Graham Hancock. That's just a random smart guy. Or it seems smart.
Or random kook, for all we know.
That's like one of the things that until we understand what's on the other side of a black hole, we're just taking shots in the dark on how gravity works. But there's no way to see what's on the other side of a black hole.
Like, there's a fine line between genius and crazy, because I don't know if you guys have seen it, but like there was an Instagram reel and a TikTok that went super viral of this girl who was said she was trying to write letters repeatedly to her father, who was in prison. He's 87 years old. She just wants to see him. And he kept just responding to her in the same way. He had written out these advanced metrics, like on this like pieces of paper, and gave it to her and says, "Get this to a physicist. I don't want to see you until you get this to a physicist." And apparently he's saying that he has mathematically cracked the code for unlimited energy, and everybody's acting like he's crazy. And I'm just like, how about we just get a physicist to take a look at it and see what they think? Because like I said, there's a fine line between genius and insane.
Yeah. I mean,
that's not wrong.
It would be really easy to debunk.
Yeah, it would be.
Yeah.
But the fact that people won't even pay it no mind kind of gets me with my tinfoil hat. What if he cracked the code on unlimited energy, and that just cuts out on a lot of profit, so people don't want it? You know what I mean?
Well, it's the same way with like carbon capture and cold fusion. It's like people are like, oh, climate change. I'm like, no, the first person to ever figure out how to do cold fusion or carbon capture would be the richest person overnight. There's absolutely incentives to be that person. If you could take all the carbon dioxide in the world and then capture it and do something productive with it, some form of energy, you would be the richest man or woman of all time in existence.
I could see that. But then again, what if people are what if the people within the existing power system are trying to stop you from doing that? Like
maybe, yeah.
You know what I mean? Because they don't want their ecosystem disrupted.
Yeah.
Who knows? But all right. Well, that's this week's Country and Cold Cans conspiracy segment. Let's go to the mailbag.
McConaughey weird, and that's where we end up.
Yeah. But that's true. We were talking about McConaughey not using deodorant, and then it just kind of went down a rabbit hole. But all right, well, let's go to the mailbag. We have a couple of voicemails this week. Let's hit the first one from a Rhino.
Hey guys, it's Rhino calling in to comment on the merch conversation. I will say that I pretty much agree with Logan, which is to say that at first I avoided it, but I've kind of cared less and less over time. I also did a lot of the wearing other band merch to a show, thinking that it was an opportunity to potentially introduce other people to new music. You might bump into someone who doesn't know the merch that you're wearing, and you can say, well, if you like the music that we're seeing on stage, then you should, maybe check out this person's music as well. But I will also add anecdotally that I went to see Charles Wesley Godwin, and I wore one of his shirts to the show. And on our walk in, my dad actually gave me crap for it. But this was a small show. We saw him about 200 people, and I got to talk to him afterwards. And the first thing he said to me was that he appreciated the shirt. And that it's probably pretty size dependent. So when they're smaller, they probably appreciate it more. But maybe artists appreciate it more than we realize. Anyway, keep up the good work, guys. Love you.
Gang, appreciate it, Rhino. Dude, I will say I love it when someone says that I agree with Logan. He let it off that way, and I'm just like, all right. Kyle, your mic's off again. Andy. But Rhino was kind of saying what you were saying, though, that it's probably size dependent upon the artist. Like that the bigger they get, it's not that they don't care, it's just they have so much revenue stream and so much merch sales that it probably doesn't mean as much as when you're, smaller artists playing to a few hundred people and then they see somebody that bought their shirt. It probably does bring a lot more gratitude.
Yeah. His advertising point too is that like you are in a like-minded group at the show. So that is a good point to wearing other band stuff. You're more likely to run across somebody that would be interested. And I would say it's the same for smaller people. It's the same thing. You're advertising them when they're small.
Yeah.
Hard to argue with anything you said. That was pretty solid.
Pretty spot on. And hey, shout out Rhino again. We appreciate you listening, buddy. All right, let's go to the next one. This one's from a friend of the show and former guest, Classic Rock Carter.
It's y'all's old pal, Classic Rock Carter here. And, a lot of people don't know, but I am a pretty big fan of 80s and 90s country. And when you think 90s country, you can't help but think about Toby Keith. An absolute force in country music in the 90s and 2000s. And, I listened to some of his music yesterday, and even though I hadn't really listened to some of those songs in years, I still knew the lyrics to How Do You Like Me Now. I still knew Should Have Been a Cowboy. I still knew Ain't As Good As I Once Was. And, it's a sad day for country music to lose such a giant of the industry. How Do You Like Me Now is a happy the woman did me wrong song. Women get a lot of those. Women get a lot of happy, oh, the man did me wrong songs. Men usually are sad, but Toby gave us essentially the country version of Return of the Mac. And also he did a picture perfect suplex on Jeff Jarrett on the very first TNA show. So bonus points for that. Gonna miss you, Toby. Rest in peace.
Shout out Carter bringing up the fact that Toby Keith showed up on TNA wrestling event, the very first episode, and did a suplex. I saw that on Twitter the other day, but yeah. So this is the big story of the week. Big story of this episode. Toby Keith passed away. He had been battling stomach cancer for better part of the last couple years. 62 years old. Way too young. Definitely sad to see him go. The impact that Toby Keith has made on country music, it cannot be overstated, because here's a guy that had went from working in the oil fields from Oklahoma, working in the oil fields as a young man. Then he started playing like semi-pro professional football for a little bit before starting his music career as a defensive end, because Toby was a big dude. Then in the 90s, he released 4 records, and he was actually, Carter's right, like he was a big part of 90s country music and was a big star in the 90s. A lot of people who were a little bit younger than us probably only remember Toby from, post 9/11, because he became a huge star with a lot of his, patriotic, sometimes like people could criticize it being for like maybe overly flag waving in some ways, but his very like American military centric music at that time, or even like his kind of like Red Solo Cup style stuff was later in his career. But if you really look at the discography of Toby Keith, there's a lot of like incredible songs there, because one thing Toby Keith was definitely first and foremost a songwriter. The thing about his music, he wasn't writing these intricate stories that have so many layers in the vein of like an Evan Felker or a Jason Isbell, but Toby Keith always had his pulse on what the common man felt. And he said it the way a common man would say it. And it resonated with people. And there were some very well written, fantastic songs, like many of them throughout his career. The man had like 20 number 1 hits, had most of his records go at least gold, if not platinum. He had 4 gold or better records in the 90s. And then in the 2000s, we all know what happened. Won Entertainer of the Year in 03, and just went to the moon on another stratosphere. Like I said, in that post 9/11 wave of patriotic country music is one way of putting it. But, a lot of people I've been seeing kind of being negative about it, who strictly based on politics. And I was just like, yesterday's not the day to do that. The man just passed away. You don't have to like his politics. Toby Keith was a guy that was very opinionated. He was very brash, and you could even call him controversial at times. We all were old enough to remember the Dixie Chicks and Toby Keith's beef that they had, and about the Chicks' comments on President Bush back in the day, and Toby Keith defending it. But the reality is, Toby Keith was a big part of country music. He was one of the soundtracks of my childhood. I was always a huge fan of Toby Keith, and I do lean towards his 90s output more than his 2000s, but even in his 2000s stuff, there's a lot of good songs on those records. He still put out a lot of good songs on the radio in those times. It wasn't all Red Solo Cup and courtesy of the red, white, and blue that kind of gets lampooned by people now in 2024. But that song was a huge song at the time. It kind of encapsulated the way the average American felt at the time. Rest in peace, Toby Keith, man. Like this one hit me a little more than some of the others that I've seen, I would say, just because, like I said, Toby Keith was a big part of my music listening childhood. I remember my younger brother is not a big music guy, still to this day is not, but he loved Toby Keith. His first album was Toby Keith, I think in like 2000, 2001, his record, Pull My Chain. Landon loved that because he loved that song, I Want to Talk About Me. Like, yeah, yep. Like Toby Keith, man, like so many good songs. And just an incredible songwriter, and like that has had a big impact on country music.
I want to dive into that one song. When I associate Toby Keith, I associate it with my late grandfather going to various pig cook-offs or whatever, walking out in his shop when he was doing whatever he was doing, so he didn't have to go in the house. I really, I listened to it. I never really put much thought to it. But as a quasi-married man, I respect that song so much more. because 90% of your job in a relationship is to listen to their problems.
And I want to talk about me. Is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah. And sometimes you just want to vent. And I never thought about it until I got older. 99% of your life is listening to stories about people you don't know at their work. And sometimes you just be like, I want to tell you about what the hell I went through today. It's all fantastic, but I want to talk about me. And that song really resonated with me today when I was going back to the back catalog. I was like, you know what? Never thought about it, but yeah, he was right.
Yeah, I mean that was almost like it was so fast paced with his cadence. It was almost like he was quasi rapping.
Yeah,
at the time too. Yeah,
he rolls through right before he gets to the chorus. I don't know what you call that verse.
Kyle's like straight bars.
Yes, sir. My biggest respect to Toby Keith though is in his '93 album cover. I mean, my man is channeling every bit of Keith Whitley on that album cover. The mullet. I mean,
the tucked in button down.
I mean, he quasi looks like Keith Whitley. He is channeling
early '90s country. It screams early '90s country.
Yeah, he is just everything he can do. He's channeling Keith Whitley.
The funny thing is, like, Toby Keith had such a massive impact on American culture for a little while, but also, like, you talk to people who are not huge country music fans. Classic Rock Carter, a great example. I'm glad he left a voicemail on that, because reality is he was one of those people, him and like Tim McGraw from that era, were people that even if you didn't know country music, you knew some Toby Keith songs. And he parlayed that into just talking about his career success, not just in music. The man was regularly at the top of the highest net worth of people in country music, because he had a very successful for a while restaurant chain. He co-founded Big Machine Records at the time, that he ended up then just being a minority partner in it, and he started his own label called Show Dog that merged with Universal, Show Dog Universal. But Big Machine Records, you know who was the big player for them to get them on the map? Someone you're going to see this Sunday on television a million times is Taylor Swift. Like, he was one of the people who
did sign her.
He was one of the people that helped sign her. He was like in there in some of the meetings when she first like signed with Big Machine. He was an owner of that company. Like, the man knew he was savvy with business, on top of just being a good songwriter and putting out hits and just some damn good country music on top of it.
Yeah, the only reason I knew that is because I saw this Twitter thread that somebody put out about how they were so mad that Toby Keith initially signed Taylor Swift. And I was like, did he really? And I went and looked it up, and I was like, he did. He was instrumental in getting her when she was like 17 or 18 years old. And I was like, wow, I never knew that. And I was like, why is this person mad?
What's funny is, for the Taylor Swift haters out there, you can make an argument. The realistic argument is she probably was talented enough, she would have found a way anyways. However, you can make an argument that thanks to Toby Keith and Eric Church, Taylor Swift became what she became. Toby Keith, because he was part of the team that had the label that took a chance on a 15-year-old girl and signed her. And then Eric Church, because he played too loud, got kicked off the Rascal Flatts tour for playing too long and too loud, and then got replaced by Taylor Swift when she was first starting out. That was her first big break on a tour. And Taylor even wrote him a note when she had her first gold record, thanking him for getting kicked off the tour. So it's like, you can make the argument for the Taylor Swift haters out there, Toby and Eric.
That's true. And look, I have my problems with Taylor Swift. Mainly
football related.
No. My biggest current problem is the fact that she showed massive disrespect to Celine Dion at the Grammys. I saw that on YouTube.
That was actually explained. Like, so Celine Dion apparently has it's well known for people that are around her that it's some type of condition she has. She has
stiff person syndrome. Where
you're not supposed to touch her on stage. Yeah. So and then they took a photo together later that evening. Was posted it. It may have, but it's just the reality of the situation.
Yeah, I mean, she has stiff person syndrome, where like she probably will never be able to sing or live again. And I've told you, both of you, this. There's 3 people in the world that could ever hold a tune with her, and that's Whitney Houston and Martina McBride. And I'm Celine. I will be a Celine Dion stan till the day I die. But I don't know. I didn't watch the Grammys. No one watches the Grammys. I saw it on a YouTube reel. But her just motif, I'm just like, you could have done like a bow or something to acknowledge her that she's on stage instead of just, walking up and taking your award. I know there's things like you just said, but it was a bad look. The woman's a legend. The woman's a legend.
I don't disagree necessarily. Kyle. Yeah, I was about to say, like,
I would have given her a bow.
This sounds more like a social media. This sounds more like a social media controversy more than an actual real controversy. But let's not let Kyle win and let Taylor distract from the topic of the day, and that's Toby Keith. We're going to see plenty of Taylor on Sunday, Kyle.
God, please. There's only one man that I put my faith in, Lamar Jackson. He let me down. There's only one man left.
It's Brock Purdy.
It's Brock Purdy, baby.
Mr. Irrelevant in the draft a few years back.
Right.
But
can I? Yeah. All right. We talked about conspiracy theories earlier. Can I give you my one conspiracy theory about Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce?
You've already told us this. We did this on an episode a while back. It's all a psyop.
No. I still believe it's a psyop. After watching them kiss after the AFC Championship game, it didn't look like real love. I don't know. It just looked really awkward. But no,
you sound like a woman.
He does. Like
really
Andy and I are over here trying to talk about the unfortunate passing of a country music legend, and Kyle's tapping into his Swiftie.
You brought Taylor Swift. All right. No, what I'm saying is there's 2 outcomes to the Super Bowl. Either one, she breaks up with Travis Kelce and she writes a song about how once again she chose the wrong guy. Or 2, they get married and have kids. If they get married and have kids, we will have the second baby boom. I'm calling it now.
I can agree with that.
There are millions of 30-year-old women that said, I don't want kids. Oh, my God, Taylor Swift had kids. I want to have a kid.
I can see that.
Yes, the second.
She has a lot of sway over the hardcore Swift fan, so yeah.
Yes, yeah, that's my conspiracy there.
Yeah. I don't know if that's conspiracy, more of just as a prediction.
Or she dumps him and she writes a song about she picked the wrong guy again. But
yeah, so like back to Toby, I will say that I did a deep dive into his 2000s album cuts because I knew all the hits from 2000s and I knew a lot of his 90s country music quite well. Mm-hmm. There was a lot of stuff from that 2000 stuff on the records on the albums that is just actually really, really good. And then one of the last songs he released was a song called Don't Let the Old Man In. And it just shows him coming full circle of putting out another fantastically written song. And it was inspired because I think he was going hunting or something with Clint Eastwood. And, Clint Eastwood's a rather old guy. And he was like, just telling Clint Eastwood, he was like impressed by how at his age he's able to do all the stuff that he does. And Clint Eastwood uttered the phrase, well, I'll get up every day and go out and I don't let the old man in. Then Toby, knew that had to be a song. And ended up making it. I highly recommend it. It's on Spotify, Apple Music, all that. But that's just kind of him coming full circle with his songwriter side. Because like I said, at his core, Toby Keith always was a songwriter. I was a big fan of Toby, obviously. This was just something like the Shockin' Y'all record in 03 was one that I played through and through when I was a kid. That was a massive album at the time.
And it's also so timely because the U.S. military strategy was shock and awe.
Yeah.
And it's just so, I mean, if you weren't alive in that time, we were all very young, but it just is so, me and Andy love play on words, and that's about as good as it gets. Shocking y'all and shocking all. So mad respect on that.
Well, Andy, unless you want to jump in and say something, we could jump into our top 5 favorite Toby Keith songs each.
I did have fun at his bar and grill in Denver.
So you actually went to one of his restaurants then?
Yeah. They had bologna.
Fried bologna or real bologna?
I don't remember. They had that and whiskey.
Sounds like it.
Oh, okay.
I was going to say, it sounds like
yeah.
bologna wasn't the only thing you were consuming.
No.
That explains a lot. Yeah.
Toby Keith's Bar and Grill, Denver, Colorado. All right. Well, if y'all want to, Kyle, we'll start with you. We'll go from number 5 down to number 1 on our top 5 each favorite Toby Keith songs.
All right. So number 5 for me is I Love This Bar. And not because it's a great song. I love this music video. He's sitting behind a chain link fence at a dive bar. And the whole time people are throwing just shit at him. And he's just happy to be there. And I will never, ever forget that music video. It's one of the first music videos I ever saw. Watching CMT with my granddad. And it's just a memory that will live with me forever.
You know what's funny about that music video, too, that always cracked me up as a kid was when he said, the part of the song where he's like, I like to take her out to dinner. I like a movie now and then. So he's taking her out to dinner. He's taking her to like Sonic or somewhere like that. And then it's like, I like a movie now and then. And he's sitting there laughing, spitting popcorn out, and he's making her watch the Three Stooges.
Yeah.
It was just like you said, the music video was always hilarious.
Yeah.
That's the name of the restaurant, ain't it?
I love this bar.
Toby Keith's I Love This Bar.
Yeah. I think that's what it was. That was a massive hit.
Yeah, it was fantastic. One of the earliest music videos I ever saw.
Yeah.
Watching CMT with my granddad, and I would never forget
it. Kyle's like, I think I love bars.
Yeah.
All right, Andy, number 5.
I was 50-50 on picking that one, but I went with Beers Ago. I don't know, I remember it more, I guess.
Was it 52,463 beers ago? I think that was the number that it finally got to.
I don't remember.
All right, so I guess number 5 for me is probably He Ain't Worth Missing from the his 90s stuff. Like I said, he had some bangers in the 90s. And this was one of those songs where he's just telling the girl, hey, look at me. I'm your guy, but that guy that you're hung up on, he ain't worth missing. Like Toby, it has that 90s sound. Me and Kyle, like, I know Andy's not as big of a fan, but definitely one of the bangers from the 90s. So that's number 5, He Ain't Worth Missing.
I'm going to go right on the same album. A little less talk and a lot more action. That a banger. What did BJ call it?
Slappers, bangers,
certified twangers. That's right. Yes, that is right up my This is a song for a lifetime.
Toby had some like good ballads, but he also had some shit kickers like that.
This song will outlive me. It's my life's goal to put some stuff like this into my great grandchildren.
Andy, number 4.
Mine, I think, is the original Drunk on a Plane, and the songs of the such would be How Do You Like Me Now?
Oh,
I love that song.
Yeah. How do you like me now?
Wouldn't that be the original Drunk on the Plane? Same premise, right?
It's the same idea, yeah. Of like, she may have left you, but you turned out to be a massive success and be like, hey, baby, how you like me now? Like Carter alluded to that in his voicemail.
Is that the 04 album?
That I think was I want to say was the early 2000s. I want to say that was like, I think that was before Shock and Y'all. I think that was on either Pull My Chain or I'll look while you guys are talking about it.
That might be 2000 then, because Shock and Y'all was like 2003-ish, if I remember right.
Yeah, Shock and Y'all was 2003, but I think that was from Pull My Chain.
That might be 99, 2000.
Might have been. It was in that ballpark, yeah. I don't remember exactly what record it was on, though. It's not Pull My Chain.
It's more like it's a Drunk on a Plane if you're going to really throw it in somebody's face.
All I know on that album is the one where he's doing the fucking smug ass grin with the cowboy hat.
Yeah.
I remember that album cover.
And he's like on the football field.
Yeah, he's just doing that smug ass grin.
All right, number 4 for me is Wish I Didn't Know Now This another 90s song where he's so in love with this girl that he knows she's cheating on him. He knows she's no good. However, he said he'd rather be with her than be without her, but he just wishes that he didn't know now what he didn't know then. It was one of those, it's got that, like we always say, the way those 90s country songs have that turn of phrase and the hook of the song. I love that. That's number 4 for me. Number 3?
Number 3 is a song I alluded to earlier. I want to talk about me, baby.
That was Pull My Chain.
Yeah, I want to talk about me. And the alliteration and the way he spits those lines out, I mean, it's mad impressive for a country singer because it's very upbeat. And hats off to him. And as I said earlier in the podcast, you really do grasp what he's getting at when you get older and you're in a long-term relationship.
That was my younger brother's favorite song as a kid. That was the one that he got. We got the whole CD for Landon strictly because of that song.
Yep. Also, dope album art with the cowboy boots.
Oh yeah. Yep. Andy, number 3.
I'll move it from number 2 because that was my number 2. It's hilarious.
It is.
I like
it's
when he does
funny.
the me thing. It's hilarious.
Yeah, he's like me. I want to talk about me. Or no, he was like you. I know what you're talking about towards the end of the song. You.
And then it's hilarious.
It's a
How
funny
can you not
song.
like it?
It's objectively funny. It's a good song. Number 3 for me, I've got to say is from that same record, My List, where he's just sitting there and he gets up in the morning, he's writing his list of all the things he needs to do today, but then he starts thinking about the more important things in life, and says that he needs to put that on what his list of things to do today. That song has been one of my favorites since I was a kid. That was like my favorite song on that record as a child, and to this day, it still holds up. So My List is number 3. Kyle, number 2.
We're going to slow it on down. Slow it way down. And You Shouldn't Kiss Me Like That.
Oh, yes.
God, we're going to slow it all the way down. This song, he really shows off his vocal range. And it's fantastic. And I feel like I'm 7 years old again. Every time I listen to this. Fantastic banger. Top to bottom.
That was one that barely missed the cut for me. Like I said, there were actually so many songs I could put in the top 5 that it was difficult, and that one barely missed cut. But I love that song too. Andy, number 2.
This wasn't my original number 3, but this is basically only from the music video. It's Bullets in the Gun.
Oh yeah,
I don't remember that one.
It had a smoke show and it was a neo-Western Bonnie and Clyde video. Video sick. I loved that video. I think that's like 2009, 2010, something like that.
Yeah, it was for us. It would have been like late middle school, early high school for sure.
I love the music video. So I don't even remember what song's about, but I remember the music video.
Yeah, I want to say that's a cover, but I love that song too. That one was I love Toby's rendition of it. And like you said, the music video is awesome. Like, definitely check out that music video if you haven't seen it. And if you're listening to this because you're a Toby Keith fan, you definitely have probably seen I Love This Bar, but why not go watch it again anyways? Number 2 for me is Who's That Man? One of, again, from the 90s, where he's sitting there and he's like seeing his house, seeing his wife, seeing his kids, his backyard, even talks about his dog. He goes, but who's that man that's running my life? Because his wife kicked him out. She's gotten remarried. She has another man that's just basically stepped into his spot in the house, and he's just sitting there sounding real sad boy country. I love it. And it's just like, who's that man running my life? Number 2 for me. All right, Kyle, number 1.
Have you already picked this? Have you already picked He Ain't Worth Missing?
Yeah.
Okay,
but you can still pick it though. This isn't a draft.
No, I do. Yeah, that would probably be my number 1. But since you already picked it, I'm gonna give a nod on a really cheesy song that came out at the most opportune time that it could have come out. That's American Soldier. I wouldn't have normally picked this, but you did pick He Ain't Worth Missing, which I think is my favorite Toby Keith song. But when it came out, the mood of the country had vibed. It hit hard. It's not as cheesy as Courtesy of the Red, White, and Blue, but it's very honorable to what a lot. Let's face it, we got lucky. Our generation missed it by 10 years. People that are 10 years older than us, they didn't miss it. And look up. I always say that I was born 10 years too late for the music I like. But I'm lucky that I wasn't born when I was, because, at the time, if we'd have been instead of second grade, how was it? 8 years old, instead of being 18, we dodged a lot of bullets from the geopolitical aspects. And this song is a very respectful version of Courtesy.
It does pay quite a good homage to the American Soldier, and it needs to be said, and I wish I had said this in my monologue earlier, but hardly nobody in country music has done as much for the U.S. military as Toby Keith did. The amount of times he went overseas to play concerts for those guys, did the USO tours. It's a tip of the cap, regardless of how you feel about whatever conflicts the U.S. may have been in. You have to respect what Toby Keith did for the troops.
And also,
this, like you said, this is very heartfult. This is like he meant it with this song.
Yeah, what really spurred my enthusiasm to put this number one, I watched a YouTube clip today. It was multiple times that he worked with the USO to. I know it's all planned. It can't be really spur of the moment, but he would get like his staff to go pluck a woman out of the crowd and bring her up on stage, and he would multiple times. Her husband, who was a Army or Air Force or Navy veteran, or active duty soldier, he would bring him out on stage with her. And there's not many things that can touch this cold old heart of mine. But, those reunion videos, they get me choked up from time to time. But I mean, it's multiple times that he did that. And he would just bring this random woman on stage and be like, what song do you want to hear next? And, talk to her. And she has no idea. And all of a sudden, her husband walks out behind her. It's a great thing to see, because, tip of the cap to him. Because, I mean, it wasn't an act with him. He really meant it.
100%. Andy, what's your favorite?
I'm fairly sure everybody can guess it. I'm surprised I haven't heard this already.
Oh, it's probably the same as my number one, if I had to guess.
Is it the number one, Toby? It's the most popular song. Mine should have been a Cowboy.
Should have been a Cowboy. It's my number one, too.
I don't understand how that's not been mentioned yet. That's hands down my favorite.
Yeah, me too.
I love that song. I don't understand completely, because it's not like a realistic thing to have been. And when that came out, and even more so today. But if I could have done everything in that song, yeah, I'd pick that.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's more about the aesthetic than actually being a cowboy.
It is more about the aesthetic, but
yeah, if we're being honest, all of us in modern America, it's definitely more about the aesthetic than.
Even when this song was written, what, 30 years ago?
90? Yeah, like what, 93, 94 when it came out?
Yeah, it's 30 years ago. Yeah, it's still an aesthetic, but yeah, I get that.
I don't want to be riding my pony on a cattle drive.
Hell yeah. I mean, look, this is undoubtedly probably one of the most popular and objectively one of the best Toby Keith songs. It's withstood the test of time for a reason, because it is just an absolute, as Kyle alluded to, and what BJ Barham has said, it's a slapper, it's a banger, and it's a certified twanger, because should have been the Cowboy, man. Like the whole thing where he's like talking about old Marshall Dillon and Miss Kitty said he never hung his hat up at Kitty's place. Like Andy talking about the 6-shooter riding his pony on the cattle drive.
Stealing the young girls' hearts.
Just like Gene and Roy.
Gene and Roy.
How can you not listen to that song and just not have fun? It's awesome. It makes you want to live in a time period that probably was objectively worse.
Oh yeah.
Not even probably.
Like it was
Definitely
objectively worse. But when you listen to that 3.5 minutes, you're like, by God, you know what? I want to do that.
Andy, this has sparked a conversation that we talked about this weekend after the Muscadine concert. We all talked about growing mustaches. You could pull off early 90s Toby Keith. You absolutely could, because you can grow a mullet.
Yeah.
I had that hair when I
got
was
kind
younger.
of the curly hair, like
you got the curly hair, and
yeah.
you can grow a mustache. You can do it.
See, you've got the curly hair. I've got straight hair, and Kyle's got like an afro. You're the only one that can pull it off.
See, mine doesn't grow long. It just grows thick and bushy.
You can do it, blonde hair.
We're not worried about the color. We're talking about the aesthetic. You can pull off that aesthetic.
Andy, do it for Toby.
Yes, sir. Yeah, amen.
My hair ain't that curly anymore. I used to could have pulled that off. Man,
Stop making excuses.
Hair.
Stop making excuses.
Well, you know what? Get a perm.
My hair's dying on me, okay, guys?
That probably would accelerate killing your hair, so don't get a perm. But yeah,
but you can rock the mullet. The mullet and the mustache. God, that would be awesome. We couldn't pull off the women at you at that truck stop.
Screw, you'd be stealing all the young girls' hearts, just like Gene and Roy and Toby.
That's right. Toby Keith. It's a prophecy for Andy. Is what this song is.
You see, in my mind, I can grow a wide earth mustache.
Yes.
Is this like that conversation we had where in our minds, like, and obviously none of us smoke cigarettes, but in our minds, cigarettes look cool. But in reality,
cigarettes are cool.
But no, the idea of cigarettes look cool. Like the Zach
awesome,
Bryan album cover, right? However, in real life, if we were to try to sit there and repeat that, we would look more like just the white trash at the gas station and where we're from. I mean, that's
who played Wyatt Earp in Tombstone? Kurt Russell.
Yeah, Kurt Russell.
You see, I feel like in my mind, I'm going to look like Kurt Russell or Sam Elliott in Tombstone, but in reality, I'm probably going to look like Val Kilmer.
When he's sick.
Yeah.
When he's on his deathbed.
Yeah, sick Doc Holliday is what I'm actually going to look like.
Yeah.
I mean, I think I look like James Dean if I smoked a cigarette. In reality, I probably like some overweight dude from Barstool. I mean, I think I look like James Dean, but I'm not.
It wouldn't have been funny if you had to say Barstool.
I mean, yeah, it's what it is. I mean, you know, we all vibe in the same aesthetic.
Yeah, I know I couldn't pull off those things and actually look like for instance, Andy, like at Halloween when you do a costume, like when we did the NWO, in our heads, we felt like we looked like Hogan, Hall, and Nash. But in reality, when you see the pictures, yeah, we did. We looked like not Make-A-Wish, God. Wish.com is what I was trying to say. Wish.com, NWO, not Make-A-Wish.
Yeah, you're going to have to get a lot worse before you see John Cena.
Yeah, we're going to start running the treadmill 10 times a day.
Wish.com, just for clarification.
The point is, it doesn't look good. It's just funny as hell, which is why I want to do it.
We'll see. Hey, look, we got a month to decide, right? But
I haven't shaved all February.
Yeah,
it's only been a week. Only been a week.
I was going to say we're like 7 days in. So
I'm leaving the mustache. I'm going to grow a dirty ass mustache. Andy, you could. We could make a joke out of Andy because he could be like, "Dearest Margaret, I'm writing you home from the front. Those damn Yankees are making progress. My current position, we will be overrun." Wait, dude, the fucking thick ass sideburns. Oh, God, that'd be epic, Andy.
I ain't cut my mustache since like practically New Year.
We should take a black and white photo of you. I mean, you would look like a Civil War general if you let the sideburns go.
I think you should do it.
I'm down. I'm gonna do it. And
hey, look, the reality is, as Toby Keith would say, I ain't as good as I once was, but I'm as good once as I ever was.
Yep. I was talking to a guy at work today, and he's in his 40s. He said, "I always thought that song was stupid as hell." Then I hit 40. He was like, "You know what? He was right." I was like, yeah. Respect.
Yeah, well, rest in peace, Toby Keith. Hell of a career, big time legend in the country music world, and definitely you will be missed.
Yeah, R.I.P. in peace.
All right, well, be sure to follow us on YouTube at Cold Cans Country. Follow us on all the social medias. You know that by now. Leave us a voicemail. What are some of your favorite Toby Keith songs? Was Toby Keith big part of your childhood soundtrack? We'd love to hear from you. Love to hear anything about that. And give us 5 stars, a great review. That's the show this week. See you next time.
Take care, guys.